Hello, everybody. Ron Callis here with another episode of Automation Unplugged. It is 12:30, just a little bit after 12:30 on Wednesday, March 14th. We have been apart for a couple of weeks. I was doing a bit of traveling last week, and despite my best hopes of getting a show in on Wednesday, wasn't able to make that happen. So here we are. Happy you're with me. Thanks for watching, whether you're watching me live or you're watching me on a recording later on. Appreciate you listening and tuning in. Got a great guest, Chris from WSC. We're going to talk to Chris and learn about him and his business. Terms of travel, you know what? Let's actually come over here to Facebook. Let's see if technology is cooperating, and let's see if this is working. My voice sounds a little bit raspy. I'm fighting off the allergies. It is allergy season, and I think I've had this my whole life. I get attacked pretty hard, so I'm on meds right now. My eyes are itchy and my voice is crackly. But I'm going to persevere. And all right, let's go ahead and jump right to it. Let me bring in Chris. Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, Ron. How are you?
I am super duper. You know, last week I was away. I was over at the ProSource show in Nashville, and then I flew back for less than 24 hours to Florida, and then I was off to the Orlando FRC robotics event with the high school kids that I mentor. So Wednesday through Sunday was pretty much eaten up with robotics. So I'm still in recovery mode from all that action.
I bet. ProSource looked like it was had a lot of interesting things going on there today. These last few days. I was half tempted to go there because of we've been tossing around a couple of different ideas like D-Tools, iPoint, things like that, and so it was tempting to go there. Unfortunately, I was not able to make it.
Well, I always recommend for all of my friends and customers and anybody I run across, I think in terms of a buying group, I think much of the benefit, you know, aside from the obvious, which is simply your rebates or programs with your vendors, is certainly in the peer-to-peer networking that happens at the gatherings. So, you know, it's I think that's where really the good stuff happens. You know, you get to rub elbows with your peers, and you get to learn from each other and help each other. So hopefully the next one you can carve out the time and get over there or wherever. I don't know if it's in Nashville again. I'm not quite sure where it is next time.
With my luck, it'll be on the West Coast again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's get you. It looks like we've got an audience forming here on Facebook. So again, if you're out there, thank you. Please like this, share this, give us a comment, say hello, tell Chris you like his shirt, you know, make a comment. And we want to know you're out there, so please do so. But let's get Chris formally introduced. So I met Chris. Well, actually, Chris, you tell me. When did we meet? A couple years ago?
So we met, I believe it would have been about a year now. Tim Stevens from Control 4 had told me to reach out to you. And, because I had been through a couple of different marketing companies, none of them seemed to have the right ideas in mind. And he told me to reach out to you. And it was one of the best decisions I'd ever made in my marketing plan.
All right, I'll slip you $20 later. That was a nice.
Not paid.
That's funny. Well, let's tell the audience about you, if you don't mind. You know,
sure.
Let's. And I put in the show bio or on the notes that people would be reading as an intro to watching the show, that you got your start. You actually it looks like right out of high school you went into the Navy. You're from my neck of the woods. You're down from Southeast Virginia. I'm from the Hampton Roads area, a city called Newport News. So I have a lot of Army and Navy and Air Force family members, and looks like you went right into the Navy. But can you kind of talk about your background and how you ended up landing in the CI channel?
Yeah, so I'm actually originally from New Jersey, and when I was 18, I joined the Navy as a fire patrolman, which is basically an electronics technician that works on weapon systems. So I've always kind of had a technical background. When I got out of the Navy, I first started up as a DirectTV technician, which I didn't even know that I was going to like it. When I was actually applying to the job, I remembered I was applying as an electronics technician from here in Virginia to a place in Matawan, New Jersey. And when we talked about the entire job over the phone, when I got there by electronics technician, they meant DirectTV installations. Wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but I gave it a shot anyway, and it turned out that I absolutely loved the installation of things. I got to play with electronics and toys and everything else. It was enjoyable. From there, I graduated into doing TV mounts, and then eventually I started doing home theaters. Then I started designing home theaters. Then this would have put us right around 2009. I had a little bit of a setback when the housing market crashed. Unfortunately, I had lost my job working at the time, and so I decided to go back to school. I got my bachelor's degree in accounting, and right about the time that I finished up that degree, I had the epiphany to say, I have all this technical experience, I have the schooling background, let's take a shot at this. And I talked to my buddy Sean, and him and I started WSC Home Audio Video, July 26th, 2011.
Now, the WSC name, what does that stand for?
Woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Woulda, shoulda, are you serious?
No,
but
I
was like, that's pretty creative.
Yeah, right? No. It's Weistewald Subbiondo Company.
Okay.
So Sean's last name is Weistewald. My last name is Subbiondo and Company.
Got it. And Sean is still your business partner?
That's correct. Yes, he deals with all of the installation and project management side of the business now.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So you decided to go and start a business with a business partner, or you both just started to start the business with each other. What was the plan of attack there? Was it to divide and conquer, distribute roles and responsibilities? And was it, it was a good buddy and you said, let's figure it out and go for it? What was the approach?
It's funny. So Sean really didn't know much about this industry. He was, I had to teach him a lot of the ins and outs of the industry. But he did have very sound and solid business ethics. And, we made it work. I started teaching him installations and eventually taught him sales. Now we're much more like aces in our places. I deal with a lot of the sales and customer service side of the business, and he deals with the installation, project management, and after job service part of it. He is very, very good at what he does. I don't really get in his way. I don't really ever have to. He is, just like he doesn't get in my way. I continue to feed business, and he continues to crank out results. Got it.
Understood. Now, tell us a little bit about the business. How many people are on your team, and what sort of roles are they in?
It's funny because we started when it's hard to believe that we started with just the two of us. Because fast forward to 6.5 years to where we are now. I employ 6 technicians and administrative staff, and it's kind of surreal. I mean, I always knew that we had a good model for things, but people want to work with us, and it's kind of relieving knowing that there are people out there that still take service seriously.
So you have 6 technicians. Is that 3 crews?
No,
3 vans?
6 technicians and admin staff. So I have I have my sales assistant and I have the admin and, the admin executive. And then I have 4 technicians.
4 technicians. So you're running 2 crews.
Yes.
Okay. What is a typical project for WSC look like? I know I read in the notes here that you're a platinum Control 4 dealer. That means you're certainly doing some projects.
Right.
It's a pretty good volume. What is a typical project look like for you?
It can be hard to say. We seem to get a lot of people that want to do some really interesting things, and that's really what the custom integration channel is all about. It's
right.
It's about developing something that, is maybe similar to something else, but may not have been done before. Our typical projects, we started out as home theater type company, developed into, smart home integrations. And so most of our jobs are, they're home theater, they are their whole house audio, networking distribution, smart home wiring, pretty much what you would expect out of a company like ours. But we have we get a lot of interesting clients. Like we just got done working with a customer who we were able to successfully use a Control 4 and an Amazon Alexa to give him 100% control over everything in his household, because he doesn't have the use of his arms and legs. And,
wow.
These are life-changing things for people.
How did he find you? How did that person find you and know to ask you to do such a thing?
So it actually wasn't him that found me. It was an organization. There was an organization called Hope House, which is right here in Norfolk. And they were trying to find somebody who might be able to give that kind of voice control to Jesse, which is the customer. And Jesse was a great guy. He's very smart. He's just wheelchair bound. He doesn't really have the ability to use his arms and legs. He has a degenerative disease. So everything we had to do, we had to take into consideration that you can't just open up an app and, in the event of an emergency. So we put in a Control 4 system, a package network. Everything that we hooked up to the network has the ability to have the electrical cut from it via the use of P09s. So ultimately, if he ever has a problem, we can fix it. And because of package, we get notifications about being able to that there's a problem before he even knows there's a problem. Which is great, because he can't just pick up a phone and call us and tell us there's a problem. We have to know that it's there and act proactively.
Interesting. Now, I'm looking at my notes here for you, and I see that you became, I guess, one of the first people in the United States to become PCNA certified. What is that, and what does that mean?
So PCNA is Package Certified Network Administrator. So it is the first residential network-based certification. Now, there's always been the Cisco certifications and the Microsoft certifications out there for those, for commercial side of business. This is a certification specific to residential and light commercial. And it was announced by Control 4 at CEDIA 2017, and I was among the first to complete the course.
Do you lead with that in your marketing? Do you tell your customers about that? How do you use that to your advantage?
I don't, I don't have it in my marketing just yet, which
maybe we need to talk to your marketing company. Maybe we need to work on that.
My marketing company, whoever they are. I really do need to get that on the front page of the website, but I'm very, it can be difficult to educate residential customers that their home networks, they require quite a bit of horsepower, quite a bit more than an ISP provided router or something that you would buy in a Best Buy is going to be able to provide for them. You can buy a Netgear router, and if you're just streaming Netflix on a couple of devices, it's really nothing crazy. then you might be able to get away with something like $100 or $200 router. But if you have a house that's 4,000 square feet or better, and you've got you have 4 children, and you, your wife, and all 4 children all have an iPhone, an iPad, and a laptop each, and each of you have TVs in all the rooms. It's a lot of devices on the network, and it adds up quickly and everything. And things these days are not getting less connected; they're getting more connected. I mean, I had a customer ask me the other day if it's possible to integrate their toaster so the toaster can automatically make them toast when they wake up in the morning. And while that's great, we got a good laugh about it, the fact of the matter is we're not that far away from that.
Right. What do you find your customer, the consumer's awareness of the importance of the network, and therefore the robustness, the appropriate robustness of network hardware and the attention to network design and installation? Do you find that they get it, or that it requires a bit of selling or education?
I find that most customers are less informed than they should be. And it can be challenging explaining to them why their free or $100, $150 router is just not going to cut it. And what makes it so difficult is that everything that is a network that causes problems, they just attribute it to, oh, well, that's just technology. Like you get the spinning wheel on your Netflix because it's thinking, and that's a big deal. That it's spinning because your device is struggling to keep up with with the program that you're trying to watch. And that could be that's an issue, but it's easily resolved by having the right technology in place.
Now, as an integrator, you have your choice of which manufacturers to partner with. Mm-hmm. And you've chosen to partner with Control4 for automation and perhaps lighting and other categories. And Correct. You've, in fact, grown your volume with them pretty significantly. If there's other integrators here listening, maybe people that are earlier in their startup phase and are just trying to figure out who to partner with, what were some of the processes that you've gone through that helped you delineate Control4 is the right company for us?
So, geez.
I know it's a heavy question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Trial and error. I mean, we had first gotten on board with URC, and I don't want to necessarily knock on the URC product. URC makes a fantastic product. It just wasn't for our company. When we discovered Control, we were using URC, and I had a customer that we installed an entire total control system for them, and they said, Chris, we've had Control4 in the past, and we just want to go back to Control4, and I couldn't convince them otherwise. Now, luckily, this customer was great. They ended up paying us to go to the Control4 training and get Control4 certified just to do their job. What we didn't expect is that for us, Control4 was everything we were missing. I mean, it just hit us, and it was perfect for our company. We loved it, and we never looked back. Now, like I said, I'm not saying Total Control is a bad product. It was great for us, and they've made huge strides with the new Total Control 2.0 platform. It looks really good. But I have a lot of faith in Control4. It works. It has it's remote support. I can't tell you how many times Composer Express has saved me a trip out to the customer's house because they said something like their Roku is no longer functioning. And I go on there and I realize that their Roku is no longer being seen by the Control4 network. And all I have to do is reset the Roku box. Well, if I've got a pack edge network in there, I can reset the Roku, or I can just say, hey, Mr. Customer, do me a favor, unplug Roku, and everything starts working again. Right there. 5-minute conversation, truck roll saved. Get back to doing business.
How has it impacted you? Control4's been on a bit of an acquisition path the last few years, right? They purchased Pack Edge, they purchased Triad. speakers. They've purchased just recently in December, it was announced they purchased a Hiji.
Right.
What's your read on that?
I think that they're looking at it like these are the products that customers want, and if they're going to continue to be a relevant home automation and maybe like commercial automation type company, they're looking at it and saying these are the types of products that we need to work on, that we need to acquire. If you think about it, as an integrator, I always tell my customers that, hey, you could do your security monitoring with us. We could do your security installation. We could do your cameras. We could do your audio. We could do your video. We could do everything for the customer. Or they can hire ADT and we can integrate with them. Or they can hire, another company to take care of their cameras, and we'll integrate with them anyway. But when it comes time for service, when there's something broken, who do you call? And we've always professed this to customers, saying, let us take care of it all. Not necessarily because I want to make more money, because obviously I'd like to make more money. All right, but it really has to do with servicing them properly. It has to do with making it easy for them. If they press one button and that button doesn't work, then they press one more button and that button calls me. All right? All Control 4 is doing is looking at it in the same exact way. If there's a problem with the receiver, call Control 4. If there's a problem with the speakers, call Control 4. If there's a problem with the network, call Control 4. It's the same exact thing. So it makes sense that they would take this approach because that's the way we think as custom integrators.
A couple more topics I want to touch on here. By the way, if you're out there watching live, thank you for watching, and please give us a like. I see some likes being thrown up there, and please give us a comment or a question for Chris. I'll be happy to try to read it off to him and have him address it here so it's recorded for posterity's sake. Chris, you are also doing security monitoring. So,
right.
And I know that unfairly because we made some security signs for you recently. So not every integrator in the Resi CI space is in security. You've chosen to add that. And how long have you been doing it, and why is that a part of your mix?
We've been doing security for about 3 years. And, like most companies, we looked at it and said, hey, recurring monthly revenue, why not? Reality is that while the RMR is certainly nice, it's not the reason. The reason simply is one phone call for our customers. Interestingly enough, I don't do that many security installations for somebody who is just looking to get security done. It is mainly as a service to our customers that are getting larger projects done, and they want it to be smooth and seamless and one phone call.
Got it. Understood. So it's not you don't go out and chase security business, but you'll sell security services and contracts to your customers that you would normally be providing automation services to and such.
That's correct. That's correct.
That makes sense. So what do you see as the area of most interest or growth for you moving forward? When you look forward and you look at all the categories of business that you could be chasing and going after, what has you excited? What has your attention?
Automation in general is just, it's exciting every day, trying to do things that may not have been done before. Listening to a customer say, hey, can it do this? And I can't tell you how many times I've had a customer say, hey, can you make it do this, this, and this? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, great. And they sign off on the contract. And I walk out of that meeting and say, man, how am I going to do this? And I'm kind of trying to figure it out. But
so the constant challenge is what excites you.
I'm very excited by constant challenge.
Are you one of those guys, Chris, that when the pallet of product arriving from Control 4 or somebody shows up in your warehouse, you're like a kid on Christmas morning opening all the boxes?
If I said no, would you believe me?
I wouldn't believe you. I wouldn't believe you. So, there are businesses of all different shapes and sizes that are going to be watching and or listening to this. And you got your start, 6.5 years ago. What are some maybe words of advice, some lessons that you've purchased over the years that you would say feel compelled to share with that person that's earlier in their startup phase of their business? What would be some maybe 2 or 3 pieces of advice you could share?
It's when you're first starting out, it's easy to get wrapped up in the head trash that says, I'm a new company and I need to be different than the next company by doing things that are obvious to customers, like lowering your prices. Just as an example, if you go and get a TV mount from Best Buy, that TV mount might cost you $199 for the service. If I was a new company, when I was starting out, it was real easy to be able to say, well, Best Buy does it for $199, so I'm going to do it for $169. And it doesn't quite create the right ambience. You need to understand what you're worth and what your value is. So I would say, be patient in your pricing. I know it's hard to look at the flow of business that is coming into the business and saying, well, I really need this business. But the more desperate you are for that business, the more desperate you look to your customer, and the more they can see it and smell it. So
no discounting. Discounting bad.
I personally thought, there's nothing wrong with giving a 10% military discount, but don't just discount arbitrarily. Don't just discount just because a customer says, well, Best Buy can do it for $199. Stick to your guns. Whatever you think your value is, stick to that value, because in the long run, it will make you a better person.
I agree. That's a great piece of advice. Any other advice for a startup? Or someone earlier, maybe not startup, maybe they've been going for a few years, but not quite getting the traction that they want.
Don't discount service. Don't underestimate the value of service, because at the end of the day, anybody can sell one of these systems. They're not hard. All you have to do is get somebody excited and say, it'll integrate with Alexa. Next thing you know, they're signing a $100,000 contract with you. And sales will very easily do this very quickly. All right. But the more customers you get, your service is going to start coming up, and it's going to start coming up, and it's going to start coming up. And if you're not addressing the customers that are being taken care of on the back end, your existing customers, it will eventually come back to haunt you. And what's going to happen is you're going to find yourself with all of these service customers that you're servicing, and maybe you're doing it for free, or worse, you're not servicing them at all. Your sales end up down here, and eventually they both end up going down. Do not discount service. Take it very seriously. If you have to, CEDIA has a great seminar about introducing service plans into the business. It is a very high quality. It's a very high quality video that they do. Take it seriously. Go watch that video and figure out a way to make sure that if you're going to do service, number one, maybe you figure out a way to get paid for it, and number two, make sure that you're putting strong value into it. Don't let your customers walk all over you, but at the same time, make sure you're picking up the phone when they call. Because it's easy for anybody to sell something, but there are lots of people out there that are avoiding phone calls after the sale is made. So
you mentioned CEDIA. You're a member of CEDIA?
I am.
Why are you a member of CEDIA?
I'm a big advocate for what they do. CEDIA has this industry's best interests in mind. They're not looking to, there's enough companies out here that are fly by night. There's enough people that are, enough trunk slammers that are, throwing up TVs or throwing in these installations and disappearing, regardless of what is good or bad for the customer. CEDIA is there to educate the people that are in this industry and make sure that we're all following a reasonable design on the guidelines. Now, again, they're guidelines. They're certainly not, gospel, and they're definitely not rules and regulations. But you have to start somewhere. And if you don't have a set of standards, what do you have? What is your foundation?
I agree. I've been a member of CEDIA since I started Firefly back in 2007. So I agree 100%. Chris, you recently remodeled your office showroom, and that's a big investment of time and money. It takes a lot of collaboration with your vendors, and I just would like a little bit of, I guess, maybe foundation. What was the process you went through to determine that was a good place a good next move for your business?
So we were working with a customer, and the customer was teetering on the idea of putting multiple touchscreens in their home. They wanted to do just a traditional intercom system, which is, not really, it's not really conducive in today's market anymore. They wanted to do a traditional, intercom system, but they also wanted audio. And so he was teetering on the idea of putting in 7-inch or 10-inch touchscreens from Control 4 into the system. And I was explaining that they integrate with the doorbell, and they integrate with, and they act as an intercom system, and they're also your interface to the Control 4 system, no matter where you are. And he was skeptical. He was skeptical, and he was skeptical for one reason and one reason only. He couldn't lay his hands on the product, and it didn't cost me the job, but realistically, it could have. And so we built the showroom not really to show off like what is, I guess show off is not really the right word. It's really just to put a few products into the system that we get asked a lot of questions about. So we've got things like the door station, the Control 4 DS2 door station. We've got one that's flush, and we've got one that's surface mounted, just so we can show a customer the difference between the two. And then we've got a Nest thermostat and an April Air thermostat, showing that it doesn't matter which one they choose, they both integrate into the system. It's just a matter of, what they're comfortable with.
Okay. Is your remodel done? I see a couple of wires poking out of the wall there over your right-hand shoulder.
Yeah, no, we're still working on it. Just pay no attention to the wires behind the curtain.
Right.
Yeah, we're getting there. Realistically, we've actually got the remainder of the furniture that's supposed to show up today or this week on Friday, and then we're hoping that maybe by the 1st of April we're gonna have ourselves a launch party, probably the first week of April or so.
Awesome. Well, Chris, congratulations, sir, on your continued growth and success. I know you and I have had, certainly a lot of offline conversations, and you're seeing some pretty tremendous growth over the past several years, and that's exciting and scary all at the same time. So congratulations. It's obviously you're a hardworking man. I know you work 7 days a week, and like many people in this industry, you work 7 days a week. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for having me on the show.
No, I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun to have you. So let me go ahead and jump over here, and I'm going to wrap up. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is just a little bit after 1. Thank you for joining me here on Automation Unplugged. This was episode 37. And I had Chris Subbiondo from WSC Home Audio Video out of Chesapeake, Virginia. So thanks for joining me, and I will be back next week. Stay tuned next Wednesday for another fun guest. And on that note, I am signing off, and I will see you guys and gals next time. Be well.